of your kids? What are we losing as a culture? And how do we, in small, I would even say tribal communities, get it back? We have so much global awareness now, we miss the single mom across the street who hasn't had a date for a year, hasn't had anyone to watch her kids. I call it empathy fatigue. The generation that's coming up after us, folks, the millennials and the post-millennials, have this incredible pressure to be aware of everything. Awareness is the game, and they have to have empathy for everything. But they can't do anything about what they're supposed to be aware of. So they tweet it, or they forward it, or they hashtag it. And they're constantly fed media, and all the while, what is right in front of them becomes invisible. We now live in a virtual world, and that's where I want to go this morning. Many sociologists, psychologists, a lot of research firms are now saying that Americans are more lonely and relationally isolated than ever in the history of our country. Right now, it's the air you breathe. It's what your kids are born into. The average American now spends 80 hours a week interacting with digital media. 80 hours in a week is spent in a virtual world. A virtual world. And I mean, I say this with respect. I think some of you know I've been a Christian my whole life. We preach a virtual Jesus. And we say, give him all your problems. Well, I don't see him. Or do I? So what is the church? Was the church simply the plan B or the temporary plan when Jesus said, hey, I got to go for a while. I'm going to get some things done and I'll come back and get you guys. But while I'm gone, you guys get to play me. Right? Sin less, do more, behave till I get back. Was that the offer? Or did Jesus say, no, you don't understand really what the offer is. We will all be one in ways that are literally beyond comprehension now. The church is my body. I am its head. You are Jesus, animated in the world with flesh on. If there's any theology that's more radical, well, we are radical and even heretical compared to most world religions for the plain fact that we say God put skin on and dwelt among us. That is deeply offensive to most. So the gospel is relational to the core. Real, incarnate, I see you, you see me, I can touch you, togetherness. That's the gospel. I love it early on in John. It says, Jesus noticed that a few of these guys were following him. And the narrative says he turned around and said, what do you want? I think he did it with a twinkle in his eye. What do you guys want? They don't know what to say. They're young, they're nervous. They're just really drawn to this powerful man. And they say, where are you staying? And he says, follow me, and we'll find out. Do you hear the invitation? Come be with me. We'll figure it out. When you hear the preaching about Peter denying Jesus 3 times before the old rooster crows, that's a sad story. And sadly, we tend to focus on his denial. He blew it. I don't think Peter blew anything. I think the fact that a young man could spend 3 years with another person and have his life so radically changed that he could say with sincerity, I would follow you and I'd give you my life. Are you following me on that? What happened with the young men that followed Jesus that was so powerful that one would have enough guts to say, please let me follow you. In fact, I would lay my life down for you. Yeah, he was scared. Yeah, I mean, things were going down and they were hiding like rats. I would too, under Roman oppression. But do you see the power of the confession of Peter? I love you so much. I've loved my time with you so much. I'd lay my life down for you. Wow, if we had that in the church now, if young people said, I've got a few people that have my back, they've saved my life, they've helped rebuild what I lost. They didn't just save me, they're committed to me. I'd lay my life down for those people. We're going to change the world that way. That's where I want to go this morning. We are more lonely and isolated than we've ever been. The average American looks at their phone, just their phone, 5 hours a day. 5 hours a day. Let me give you some stats quickly, and we're going to contrast some things. We're safer than we've ever been. Believe it or not, and most would not believe this, but we're actually safer in the United States than we've ever been. Child mortality rates have dropped tenfold in the last 80 years. The number of violent crimes in the U.S. is half what it was in the early 90s. The murder rate in recent years is now what it was in 1960. So if anybody wants to remember the good old days, the late 50s and the early 60s, the murder rate is half what it was. Is the same as it was in 1960. Every act of terror is a tragedy, of course, but the number of terrorist attacks in the U.S. since 9/11 is about 24. There were hundreds of various kinds of terrorist acts against the United States in the decade of the 1970s. Hundreds. We have a small fraction of attacks in the U.S. than what it was when I was a kid. Kidnapping, the number of missing persons reported by the FBI has now fallen 40% in the last about 18 years. We're safer than we've ever been. Your kids aren't going to get kidnapped. They're not going to get murdered. But here's the contrasting part. Anxiety and depression has doubled with every generation since World War II. My wife and I did some specialized contract work with a school district in Colorado for a number of years where we would work with young people that for some reason could not get out of the home. They couldn't get into the classroom. Some had safety issues because they acted out. Others, a few had surgery. But by the time we were done, after about 7 or 8 years serving the district, over 90% of the cases assigned to us were young people with anxiety. They could not leave their own home. What is going on? In the safest time of our country's history, anxiety is off the charts. Young people who want to be teachers someday, I'm making a prediction this morning on a Sunday. Look out for the animals. They're coming. I believe you will see therapy pets in every school across the United States. You see them on college campuses. You see them on airplanes. You see them everywhere. But, I love animals and I love pets. They're going to have to figure out how to clean up the poop and take them for walks and everything. But I'm predicting when you walk into a public school, you will see animals walking up and down the hall. Here's my theory. Why? Because we don't know how to interact in real time and space with another human being. No one's safe anymore. Dogs, you have a hard time being offended by your dog. You can be upset with your dog if it tinkles on the floor, but it's hard to take offense to an animal. It's easy to take offense to another person. We're literally losing our human ability to have friendship and to sit in the same space with another human being. And so animals will replace us. Just as machines are now replacing human care in many nursing facilities in the Far East. You now can put an elderly person into like a bed. It almost looks like a cocoon coffin thing, and it's a bath. You lay them in there, the bath washes them automatically, you lift them out, you put them in bed. All human touch is being removed. What are we doing, guys? What are we doing? Over 35% of Americans ages 45 and over are now chronically lonely. Only 8% of Americans report ever having a meaningful conversation with a neighbor. 8%. Only 32% say they trust their neighbors. And if you look at the millennial generation, roughly age 25 to 39, less than 18% of any millennial thinks they can trust a neighbor. We're talking about the people that live next door across the street. Less than 1 out of 5 millennials have any level of trust for the people that live on their street. The fastest growing political affiliation in the United States is unaffiliated. The fastest religious movement in the United States is unaffiliated. The number one indicator for community health, overall health, is the amount of social connection and interaction within the community. Bowling, Kiwanis, Rotary, church, YMCA. There's a direct indication between the level of social involvement. Older people in the audience are like, yeah, there's nothing new you're describing here, dude. I know. We've lost it, though. We've lost it. The people who are the most relevant to this culture, believe it or not, are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. You may not think it, but you are. Because the generations now coming up have never had the world that you grew up with and took for granted. Do you know what cutting-edge research says for pediatrics, for young parents with their kids? Let your kids play in dirt. We have no organic matter. We never get dirty. We never breathe the stuff in. Organic matter is healthy for you. You need all those enzymes and bacteria that come from God's beautiful earth, and you need to ingest it. You need to have little muddy, dirty hands, and you need to get it all over, and you need to go in the mud, and you need to touch real things, real dirt, real water, real rocks, real Legos, real toy cars, and get outside and live in the real world, and you're healthier and happier than anybody on your street. And when a doctor has to tell parents to put their kids outside, we're missing something. Are you seeing the interplay of the church? I love small congregations. I love that. 50 is about all I can handle. Maybe 100. Because you can do life on life. You can get into each other's stuff. Hopefully it's safe in some good ways. You're not just a face in a room. Loneliness is killing us. Loneliness, this is crazy. Loneliness is as bad for you physically as smoking 15 cigarettes every day of your life. The effect on mortality rate that chronic loneliness has is 3 times the rate of obesity. And we've talked a lot about obesity in the U.S. because it's a national problem and has been for many years, but no one's talking about loneliness. In other words, guys, loneliness will kill you 3 times as fast as being obese. The longest study on men is the Harvard study of adult development. Started in 1938 with about 750 participants. 260 were Harvard students becoming sophomores. The others were troubled young men from different inner city communities of Boston. They started in 1938. There might be 2 of them left. They'd be in their upper 90s. They've studied every one of these men until they died. There are now tens of thousands of pages of data on these men's lives. They did everything. Physical examinations, brain scans, medical interviews, talking to the doctors, the spouses, the neighbors, the kids, and they tracked this population of men from the late 30s until they died. And the number one and very crystal clear result out of 100,000 pages of data is that sustained attached relationships are the number one contributing factor to men's health. Physical, emotional, and in terms of living longevity. White men, ages 47 and older, are the loneliest demographic in the United States. By the time, if you're a white young man here, by the time you are 26, you will commit suicide anywhere from 3 to 6 to 1 over any other population in the United States. Men are lonely. I started to pick up on it when I did the life coaching. I knew it was a significant experience. I'm glad we had a good time. But when I'd say goodbye to these men, it was like we had gone to war together. It's like my old buddy of 20 years, and I'd known him 3 days. And then I would hear, not once, but 6, 7, 8 times, you now know more about me than any human on the planet, including my spouse. Now, I think I do a pretty good job at my job. I've been trained and I enjoy it. I was picking up on incredible isolation and loneliness. And these men have to pay a pretty big fee to be with me. So these people are successful. They have careers. They know lots of people. So let me give you a definition of loneliness. Very simple, but I think it's spot on. Loneliness isn't being alone. You are in a room full of people. But you can feel lonely in a church. You can be lonely in a marriage. You can be lonely in a family. You can be lonely in the pub, the mall, the restaurant. You can be lonely in the halls of your school. So lonely isn't being alone. I define lonely as this: not being known. There are some men that have had buddies for 40 years and they really don't know each other. They just don't. They just don't. Okay. This is where I think the church would explode. Evangelism would be nothing like I was trained on. People would be dying to get in here. So you mean you have a group of allies that have your back at any time? Yeah. Yeah, they've saved my life. Oh, you mean you got saved? Well, yeah, sort of. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying they've saved my life. When I was going down in my marriage, they were there. When I lost my job, they were there. When I was hopeless, they were there. I can call these guys. I can call a few of them at 3 a.m. They're not going to give me a lecture. They're not going to give me more information. They're going to say, we're there. What can we do? We're in this with you. You are not alone. That's the number one piece that came out of 90 years of study from Harvard College. If someone has inside them, and I mean bodily, the knowledge and the experience of, I am not alone on the planet, there is always someone there. You see, there's suffering, and then there's suffering alone. Oh my golly. There's such a difference. There's being joyful and happy, and then there's being joyful and happy, but you got to do it alone. So, don't go see a movie with my mom. I mean, I know I love my mom, and you love her too, but if she's seen the movie, you don't want to go see the movie. She's like, oh my gosh, this part. I'm like, Mom, you're ruining it. No, wait till this part. I'm like, Mom. She is taking her joy of the film up 40% because she has to draw you into the experience, right? You go see something beautiful and you're on a hike. I like getting alone sometimes, but sometimes you see this vista or, the clouds do something and you're like, there's something inside of you that goes, oh, I wish Becky was here, or I wish I could just draw someone in to the joy or the awe or the fun or the movie or the book or the food that I'm experiencing. That's evangelism. That's it. Hey, guys, come hang out with me. I don't know where I'm staying, but why don't we do it together? And we'll enjoy the joys and the surprises and the betrayals and the funny parts and the comedy and the tragedy and the excitement and the boredom, all of it, but we'll do it together. Let's be bored together. It's okay to be bored. Life's boring sometimes. It's okay to be scared. You should be scared. It's a human feeling. It's just really hard to be scared all alone. Friends, turn the lights on, if you know what I mean. When little kids, they swear that thing in the room is a monster. Dad flips the light switch and it's his hockey stick with a helmet on top. I'm like, oh, is that what it was? That's what friends do. Like, hey, I know you're in something. I know it's really scary. Together, let's talk. Let's grab some food. Let's be together. See, oh, okay. I can get through this. That's what the church can be. And I think you guys are there. This is not me telling you you need to do this. I think you are. I like that you're small. I like that jokes can be made right here. I love that someone just cracked up because they're like, yeah, I don't know, what meter are we in? 16, 19. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, forget it. Good, guys. Listen when I say, and I mean this with real respect and sincerity, don't take yourself that seriously. You don't have to. The whole world is way too serious. The nightly news has to be all about serious, shocking murder, theft. By the way, you want to know why the anxiety and all of that's off the charts? The two main culprits, political pundits and mass media. Both play on fears. Both play on fears. I'm going to do a little word study for you. You ready? Are we good? Are you bored? Are we still there? Are we together? Okay. I got one more clip if we got time. Okay. The word entertainment. All media, listen to me, all media is I don't even think this is on. Nothing. All media is entertainment. A little girl dies in a flood in Texas. Oh, that's tragic. That's entertainment. And you go, no, it isn't. Yes, it is. Look at the Latin word. The word entertainment comes from two roots. It means to capture attention. all media, all online, virtual, social media, news or otherwise, is created to hold you captive for commercial gain. Period. Go find the old book from the early 80s, Amusing Ourselves to Death. They thought he was crying wolf, and I forget his name right now, was a researcher out of New York University. The only thing he was wrong about is he actually underestimated what media would do to the United States, and he saw it 35 years ago. This is what media does. It shocks you. Little girl drowns in Texas. Oh. More details after this word. More details at 6. They do the lead-in. They do the lead-in about 20 minutes to 6. More details at 6. See, these guys are like, yeah, okay, there's something inside of you. It's done something neurological to your brain. You have a chemical rush. There's something that God gave you to say when someone's in pain, you have a corresponding feeling, and that feeling's supposed to lead you to action. You're in pain. Something inside of me has empathy. I have mirror neurons. I can feel the pain that you have even though I'm not you. And that's supposed to lead to, let's do something about it. But you can't. So every night, tragedy after tragedy, after crime, after flood, after injustice, we're burning up, they're killing the planet, everything, every night, you're like, I want Fritos. Give me a beer. Okay, what happens, it numbs the natural response of a human to say, I see you, you're hurting, let me do something. They exploit human neurology to keep you for the next commercial. Sorry, I'm a critic of it. You've seen the former coders that come out of Google, come off of Facebook, and then they admit they change their voice so they don't know who they are. We design the software to addict you to our app. It's addictive by design. It's addictive on purpose. That's why Zuckerberg was in front of Congress. He sold your attention. And now we're selling attention to our political enemies. I mean, it gets weird. All right, so I think I made my case. Let me give you a drug story. That'll change it up. Some of you might be old enough to remember that in the 70s, there was a powerful advertisement about cocaine. Actually, I think it came out in the early 80s. Based on research in the 70s, it said there's a drug so powerful that when given to rats, the rat will use and use until it's dead. It's called cocaine. It could happen to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council of America. You remember the Ad Council of America and they do these public service messages? All right. There was this powerful campaign starting in the 80s at the dawn of the war against drugs. You remember that, right? Some of you, the war against drugs. All right. Here's the experiment that they don't go into in the commercial. There's a researcher put a rat in a cage with 2 bottles of water. They smelled the same, tasted the same. There was nothing at all different about the 2 bottles of water except one was laced with medical grade cocaine, like 10 to 20 times stronger than you could buy on the street. And immediately, every rat that tasted, they didn't know, it's just like, oh, water. It would become, the addiction rate was 100%, the fatality rate was over 90%. Every rat that drank the cocaine-laced water, everyone became addicted, and over 90% of them died. Scary stuff. That's the ad. But a Canadian researcher in Vancouver duplicated the study right after the original study and said, well, there's something that seems conspicuously missing. The rat's alone in a cage. What would happen if I created a community for rats? What he lovingly nicknamed in his lab, Rat Park. He did. He created this huge community in the space of his lab, and he had all kinds of tunnels and little things for the rats to do because they love to go find stuff and bury it, and girl rats, boy rats, things to exercise on, places to sleep, a whole community of rats, and then the drug dealer came to town in the exact same form, 2 bottles of water, 1 laced with cocaine. They could barely measure the addictive level because there was none. And the rats that did become addicted, which was a small percentage, quickly became bored and went off and had a good rat life. So I grew up with this. So what causes drug addiction? Duh, the drugs. What if that's a lie? What if what causes addiction isn't that thing, it's the cage you choose to live in? And I believe, and I'm sounding Orwellian here, I think we've created a virtual cage for most Americans that keeps us isolated from one another. And that's why opiate usage is skyrocketing. Listen, the level of drug addiction for the elderly is now considered technically at epidemic levels in the United States. The elderly are drug addicted. What's going on? So here's a few solutions for you. Get to know each other. Ask real questions. Make a list of 10 people in this church and spend the next few months. Say, you know what? Over the next few months, I'm grabbing coffee with all 10 of them. We're going to spend an hour and a half. I'm going to say, hey, by the way, if you want to take notes, I'll give you four helpful questions. The guys that work with me that came here, thank you for not heckling me. Yet. They know my questions. I call them perspective questions. What's right in your life? Let's start there. That's positive. What are you all geeked out about? I'm going on vacation. Sweet. You don't go, oh my gosh, I'm going on vacation too. Or, oh, are you going up north? I go up north. Stop that. So you're going on vacation. Yeah. Where are you going? My favorite place on the earth. Really? Tell me more about it. Yeah. How long have you been going? What's your favorite memory of the place? In other words, I'm really interested in what you love about your life. Give me anything. A new recipe. I picked up the guitar. I'm dating this hot chick. She's blowing my mind. I can't barely live without her. Awesome. What's she like? Tell me all about her. We met some young people in Vegas at a conference. This is a young guy. He just wanted to talk. He just wanted affirmation. So we're sitting on a pool chair, sitting out by the pool, and he's telling me, oh, that's my girlfriend over there. And he's kind of waiting for the, oh, yeah, that's your girlfriend. I think her name was Alexa or something. I said, oh, that's Alexa, yeah. So I looked at him and I said, so, hey, what do you love about her? And he just looked at me for a second. Like, a guy twice his age or more. I just asked a simple question. Tell me what you love about her. Oh, my gosh. I was almost choking up. He's like, there's nobody in the world that understands me like her. And then it led to, I lost my dad when I was 17. She was an old friend. Nobody could go into the darkness like she could. We weren't even dating, but she was my ally. She loved me so well. I mean, he's starting to, do you see how I'm asking what you love in life? And all of a sudden we're into, I lost my dad, and then I got this ridiculous inheritance. I mean, he's multi-millionaire. I mean, it just went from one thing to another thing to another thing. And all I said basically is, hey, so what are you loving in life? What's right in your life? What's wrong in your life? Hey guys, what's killing you right now? If you could change something. Oh my gosh. I hate my house. I've got to move out. Okay. Why? What's going on? What's right? What's wrong? What's missing? What's confused? Think about them. They're very simple questions. I'll just throw that out there. I do it in life coaching all the time. It's called perspective. It's just, tell me about your life right now. What are you loving? What are you not loving? What are you missing? I need more adventure. I need more play. I need a budget. I need a girlfriend. I need a new car. I don't know what it is that's missing in your life, but I'm interested in, when you tell me what it is, I'm going to ask you more questions about it. Oh, well, what kind of car do you want? Oh, well, how are you going to get it? Well, I don't know. Well, let's make a plan. Do you see how this is what human relationships are based on? I'm going to show you one clip. That'll take us to the end, and we'll wrap up. This probably needs some backstory. This is a fictional story of a Catholic priest accused, I think, of abuse in the 60s. But the context of the story isn't that important. He's giving a sermon, a homily to his congregation, and I think he's in New York. And it's just after John F. Kennedy was shot. So I'm trying to give you the context, historical context of the film. Okay? And listen to what he says. Are you ready, Nick?
What do you do when you're not sure? That's the topic of my sermon today. Last year, when President Kennedy was assassinated, who among us did not experience the most profound disorientation, despair? Which way? What now? What do I say to my kids? What do I tell myself? There was a time of people sitting together, bound together by a common feeling of hopelessness. But think of that. Your bond with your fellow being was your despair. It was a public experience. It was awful. But we were in it together. How much worse is it then for the lone man, the lone woman, stricken by a private calamity? No one knows I'm sick. No one knows I've lost my last real friend. No one knows I've done something wrong. Imagine the isolation. You see the world as through a window. On one side of the glass, happy, untroubled people, and on the other side, you. I want to tell you a story.
Okay, we can cut. The rest of the scene's good too, but do you hear that? I want to offer something. Some of your most intense human and beneficial experiences in life is when you invite someone else into your pain. We usually hide our pain, especially if we feel it's something we did. Shame always isolates. Shame always isolates. Sin, by the way, one good way to define sin is that which breaks apart. You know, Stephen Hawking spent a good part of his life looking for a theory of everything, right? A singular theory that would explain the cause of all things. I think there is a singular cause and explanation for all things, but it's not a formula. It's a fellowship of hearts. It's perfect love. It's the dance of the Trinity. It's togetherness. That's the heart of the gospel. That which has been broken apart, we invite to come back together again. Shame will drive you apart. Love and mercy brings you back. It's okay. It's okay. You don't have to go through this alone. Do you know about 70% of the positive healing effects of therapy is simply the healthy relationship the helper demonstrates and models for the client? It doesn't matter their orientation, well, I'm a cognitive behavioralist, I'm an existentialist, I'm a narrative-based there. Good theories, and they have different attributes that are helpful. But it's only about 30% of the tips and techniques the counselor's going to give you. When you get mad at him, try this. 70% is sitting in a room where you're not judged, someone's really curious, asks you helpful questions, and says, I'm just here to understand you and help if I can. I'm not going to change you. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to give you my version of right and wrong. I'm going to ask you, so what do you think? I'm here. I'm interested. Oh my gosh. By the way, you want a job for the rest of your life? Go into the human helps. The whole world's running off the rails. If you're a good counselor, you'll make great money, and you can be in your 80s, 90s, and still doing it. Just a little career tip for you young people. Go into therapy, and we're running off the rails. What if the church was that place? What if the church was right there? That the bond between you and your fellow congregate, your fellow parishioner, your fellow being, is actually your despair. You don't have to hide your doubts. Share your doubts. I can sit in your doubts. It's okay. It's good. Yeah. So, a couple practical things. Unplug from the virtual world a lot. Take tech Sabbaths, Young people in the room, you like to go out with friends? Great. You've heard of designated drivers. If you're going to go out to a pub and you want to be safe, one person says, I'm not drinking all night. I'm going to be the designated driver, so everybody knows there's one person that's safe to drive. Okay, have a designated phone. We're going to take all our phones, we're going to drop them over at so-and-so's house, or we're going to turn them off and leave them in our car. But, I got to have somebody in case there's an emergency to get to me. All right, okay, Pastor Rex, he's the phone guy tonight. He keeps his phone on, and you text your mom or your girlfriend, whoever, and you say, hey, I'm going out on an unplugged fun night. We're bowling or we're going to the restaurant. If the world really is blowing up, call this number. And go feel what it feels like to go with 6 or 8 or 10 friends and not have a phone to look at. And go talk and just be together. Have fun. Walk through the parks. Guys, stop asking girls out on dates with a text. It's really boring. You've really missed something. I don't care what emoji you put in there. Literally go up to her. And all the fear and all the, yeah, when you go out with me, she'll probably think it's adorable. Okay. Unplug. Commit yourself to silence. One gauge of my soul and its condition for years is I get alone for 2 days, and if I'm ready to crawl the walls, I simply realize my soul's in bad shape. I have neglected me for years, or at least months. I go into a quiet place, a cabin. I don't bring any well, you can't use technology. We lived in Colorado for a lot of years. No way you could get on a digital device. There's no data. And feel how fidgety you are. See what it feels like to come back to reality. To detox off of tech. It's wonderful after a couple of days. Look into the eyes of someone you love and hold their gaze for at least 2 minutes. You will feel odd. It is a wonderful experience. Hold your daughter's hands and just look. Something might come out. I love you. You got your mama's eyes. I'm so glad you're here. Do that to your wife. I'm so glad you're my best friend. We don't look in each other's eyes anymore. We've lost it. So push back, literally. I say do that with a lot of people. Just be careful, because they'll think you're odd. Yeah. So how's work going? Good. Good. Keep looking in my eyes. You don't want to do that. You don't want to creep them out. Practice the presence of other people. How many parents do we have in the room of, little kids or teenagers? Few? Yeah? Oh yeah, we got a few. You heard the verse, train up a child in the way they should go, and even in their old years they will never depart from it. The way I heard it, by the way, it's where you put the inflection on which word. Train up a child in the way they should go. That's what I grew up with. There's just one way. It's the way of the Bible or something, and it's discipline. And if you're consistent and you discipline them when they stray, then when they get older, they'll stay on the right track or something. It's just an abuse of that context of the Scripture. Because the same phrase, the way, is used in the same book by the same writer, who he says, there are 3 things in the world, yea, 4, that are too lofty for me to understand. The way of a snake on a rock. Oh, there's the way of the ship on the high seas. There's the way of a hawk soaring on the wind. And then there's the way of a young lover with his maiden. And the whole point of the passage is each has their own completely, wonderfully, mysterious, different way. The way of a rock on a snake is so different than the way of a ship on the seas, which is incredibly different than a hawk on the high winds, which is a whole different story than 2 young lovers in love. So parents, find the way your child is wired, because they have a way. They have ways that take them out in ways that the other kids seem to do fine with. They have ways that they get aggravated. They have ways that make them come alive. All of that. Use the ancient wisdom of the Proverbs and say, I'm going to discover over time, with lots of conversation and time with my kids, what's your particular way, kiddo? Oh, you're that way. Wow, I'm not that way. But if we think there's only one way and everybody has to conform, we've lost it. All right, I'm going too long. Let's pray and close up. Do we have any questions? I don't know how to do this. Just end it? Are we good? We're good. All right. One guy's like, yeah, we're good. End it. Now. End it 9 minutes ago. Father, we thank you for your mercy. Thank you, Father, that you do have a heart, that you are not energy, you're not this distant judge. You are just fully alive, fully relational, love us. Jesus, you're the one that wanted to have a quiet breakfast with your best friends on the beach before you went home to your Father. You're the same person that allowed that woman to barge into a dinner party and throw herself at your feet and just lovingly, even intimately worship you. Embarrassed everyone, but you said, oh, wherever the gospel, when my gospel is preached, the story of what this woman has done will be included. That's what you're like. Touch and closeness and safety and friendship and intimacy. I pray that we just put aside programs and some sort of pressure to get it done and enjoy the people right in front of us. Like you would, Father. Amen. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you.